Welcome to the Web Design Business Podcast with your host, Josh Hall, helping you build a web design business that gives you freedom and a lifestyle you love.
And welcome in, friends. This is episode 225, where I'm very excited to bring on a fan favorite of this podcast. This is Wes McDowell, who, if you don't know, is an awesome online entrepreneur who helps primarily small businesses learn how to use their website for better conversions and business growth. And the reason I wanted to have him on this time on the podcast is to talk about kind of a case study situation that he's recently gone through this year. More recently, he decided to go all in on one marketing channel, and that is his YouTube channel. He also had a pretty well-known podcast, and he was doing a lot on social media. But earlier this year, he decided, I'm going to go all in on YouTube. And the idea of going all in on one marketing channel is something that we've been talking about a lot and are going to continue to do so to kind of feel out the pros and cons to that. I know it's so tempting and so easy to just spread yourself so thin, but there's a lot of power in diving into just one marketing channel and just going all in on it. However, there's some drawbacks and lessons learned as well that Wes recently learned and shares in this episode. So I took so much from this. I just love talking to Wes. He's one of my absolute favorite people to talk to in the WordPress and web design realm. So I'm excited for you to hear from him, particularly those of you who have not met him yet. I think you're really going to be excited to see what he shares, because I think it's going to apply to how you market your web design business. So without further ado, let's just dive right into this one. Here's Wes McDowell. We're going to hear about what he's learned, pros and cons, by choosing one marketing channel, and I'm excited to hear what you think. Leave me a comment on this one if you would at joshhall.co/225. Let me know your thoughts. Here's Wes. Wes, welcome back onto the podcast. I believe this is round 3, man. Thanks for taking some time to chat.
Yeah, I always love coming back, Josh. So thanks for having me again.
Well, I just mentioned before we pressed record here, I've been wanting to reconnect with you for a little while here, because the last time you and I had a discussion, you decided that you were about to go all in on YouTube. And I love the idea of like just taking one marketing channel and really diving in. And I'm just so excited to pick your brain and to see what's worked and maybe lessons you've learned. And then on top of that, what kind of spurred this conversation is I saw Elementor had featured you in one of their videos. I know I use Divi, but you use Elementor. And I think it's so cool to get featured by the tools and the companies tools that you use. So many things I'm excited to chat about, man. For folks who maybe haven't met you though, Wes, would you like to let everybody know, first off, where you're based out of? And I've been asking a lot of guests recently, when somebody asks you what you do, what do you tell them?
When someone asks what I do now, I just tell them I help small business owners make the most of their websites and their digital marketing. I don't tell them I do it for people, because I don't anymore. So I just tell them who I help and what I help them do, basically.
Gotcha. And you're still in Chicago right now, right?
I am in Chicago. Yeah, I just moved out of Wrigleyville, so I'm a little further away from the Cubs now, but a little quieter too, so it's nice.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, let's just dive into it, man. YouTube is what you really primarily honed in on. I think, is that fair to say that's kind of your main marketing channel? Is that what most of your content is going into now?
Yes, by far. So basically, I've gone all in on YouTube in terms of that's most of my day to day at this point is planning videos, shooting videos, kind of overseeing the post-production of them and all that kind of stuff. It is, without a doubt, I would say the most powerful marketing channel out there, because people get to know you. They get to see you and kind of, it's basically like a pre-meet before they ever actually are asked to spend any money with you or meet with you or work with you. So it's really kind of a ultimate business hack, I would say, at this point.
I love that. It's so funny because I'm going to release this right after an episode I did with Pat Flynn, who has 2 successful YouTube channels. And we really dove into the power of YouTube, because I think the reason I wanted to follow up with your experience of it as well is that I think a lot of people underutilize YouTube or don't realize that even as a service provider, you can utilize it in a lot of different ways. Would you say that's true as well for people who don't want to have a big channel and don't want to be an influencer, but they have a service or a product?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was doing client work up until about a few months ago. I mean, once you start getting any kind of traction on your channel, people watching your stuff who are going to be a good fit for what you can offer them, the numbers are really not very significant. Like, you don't have to have 1 million followers or even 100,000 followers on YouTube to really make a good impression on the people who are going to hire you. And it obviously depends on what your price point is. If you deal in volume, you obviously need more people watching. And if you're in a local area, it gets a little trickier there, because then you have to get people who watch your stuff who are in your local area. But if you can do what you do for a nationwide or worldwide audience, the sky's really the limit. And yeah.
It's interesting though, the local idea. So like utilizing YouTube for local businesses. I have seen this play out in a couple different ways. One was with a client that I worked with who was an insurance agent. But what he did, what was so genius, was to do like an interview series with a bunch of local business owners, and he posted the videos on YouTube. So when we did that, he was able to do a little like 10 to 15-minute interview. Like, he talked to me about SEO for that interview. And then I was able to share the YouTube video to my clients, audience, whatever you want to call it. And then all pointed back to YouTube, which of course, as we know, also contributes to SEO because Google owns YouTube. So I totally agree. There's so many ways to utilize it, whether you work with people nationally, globally, or in your local area. That might be a subtopic that would be interested to dive into one day, is to like how to target YouTube locally. That's probably pretty interesting. I imagine there's a ton of ways to go about it, similar to SEO. If you just get more targeted with what you do, who you do it for, I would think that'd be the same approach.
I'm sure there's definitely a way to do it. I never really dove too deep into it because I was always able to serve a more broad audience than that. But I've seen like realtors do it a lot. I've seen the approach you're talking about, where someone will kind of interview other people in their community. I don't always know how well that's going to play out, because then it's like you're making a video that's kind of about a restaurant in your neighborhood, not about your insurance. So it's like, I don't know, like there's probably a way to do it. I want to have someone on my channel that can talk to me about it to bring it to my audience.
That's what I did. So I don't know if you know this, Wes. One thing I did before I started my podcast, and once when I early on my YouTube days, I did an interview series with 9 Divi web designer agency owners and business owners. And you could say it was the same niche and everything, but I just asked them about their business, how they scaled it, what they did. And I didn't really plug my services or my stuff too much. I was just a host, which built so much trust and authority. That really was a springboard for me to branch into these different areas. And I developed incredible relationships with these folks who were like legit business owners. And I think it can work. I think the idea of doing an interview series, even if they're different industries, can work in a lot of different ways, particularly with that concept of like building the trust and authority, because instead of like creating an ad and pumping out ad money and ad spend and trying to sell, quote unquote, yourself, you can just interview people and ask them about their business, share ideas. And that goes such a long way. I mean, it's kind of fun because you can just talk to people kind of like a podcast, and people trust you and they're going to buy your stuff way easier when that time comes where you want to sell something. It was interesting. The guy with the insurance guy, for him, it was a little bit different because every industry he interviewed, he was a perfect fit to potentially serve, because insurance can work for just about anybody. But I definitely think it's worthwhile. The idea of like an interview series, it's a lot of work. It's why a lot of people don't do it, but it is, I don't know. I'd rather do that than like sell and do an ad personally.
Well, yeah, for sure. And you're getting your name out there regardless. And insurance is one of these things that like, I guess everybody needs. So he could
just
probably
like
actually
web design.
Yeah, exactly.
And look, do I would just say like, do like, again, 9 interviews or 10 interviews, line up 10 people, interview, see what happens. It's like, there's no harm. It doesn't mean you have to commit to one a week forever. Just, you know, see what happens. So I love that. Now I am curious with YouTube in particular, you had built your podcast, you had built a YouTube channel. Were you doing any other marketing channels, or were those 2 the biggie? Like, were you doing a lot of social media or anything else?
Yeah, so those were the biggies. YouTube has been kind of my main focus for, probably 7 years now. I can't believe it's been that long. And then at a certain point, I started kind of a companion podcast because my thought was, why not repurpose some of this content, I wouldn't just like straight up recycle it. Like I would actually do it in a new way to make it right for the podcast, but we take the same general outline. And then what we'd also do is repurpose the same stuff with Instagram posts. And we even tried TikTok for a little bit. The thing is, though, I tried it. I mean, basically, like, took little segments of the videos to put them on TikTok, which is not really what TikTok is meant for, let's be honest. So what I ended up doing is kind of really weighing this out. And I have a whole YouTube video about my decision, what went into it. I took a look at the podcast and all the Instagram stuff, all the TikTok stuff, and realized that for the amount of effort we were putting into that, we were reaching about this many people, as opposed to YouTube, which was like, this many people. So it's like it was doubling our effort to reach like 1% more people. So it was a no-brainer in the end to just let's spend that extra time on the YouTube channel.
Now, so that I remember we talked about that. And is that video, is that the one that's called I Messed Up But You Don't Have To? Is that the video?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. We'll link that in the show notes for sure for everybody. Cause it was really interesting. Of course, I was very curious about that because I actually took the opposite approach. I've kind of backed off YouTube in a way and really focused on the podcast, which has been by far the biggest generator for me personally. Yeah. But our suite of services is a little bit different. And I think that probably has something to do with it as well. But it was interesting. We kind of both took different approaches, and it just goes to show you it can work. Like if you throttle into something that you're good at, that you enjoy, and that you feel like has a good return, it can work. But I think it's a matter of like you do have to look at the numbers, right? I think it's really important to like look at the numbers and then also think about what is the biggest benefit for your business. Like you're a mature business owner, an online entrepreneur, to where you recognized I got to look at my time, what I'm investing in it, and then what's the reward? Like if I'm getting 100x in this channel, then I should probably spend more of my time doing that rather than the 20% that's not getting enough.
It's really tough. It can be tough. Like it was hard for me to pull the plug on it because in my mind, I'd already spent so much time and effort on the podcast. So I think a lot of people, it's like sunk cost fallacy, right? They're like, well, you've already put so much into it. I got to see it through. Well, no, you don't. I mean, do it if you want to, but if the numbers are telling you that you'd be much better served doing something else, might be the way to go. I mean, I am... On the other hand, though, like it's good to differentiate. It's good to kind of have different buckets in case, like, what if YouTube went away tomorrow, But I may revisit at some point in the future. But
and that's a good thing, too. And I imagine you would back me up in saying when you start out, choose one channel and then get really good at that, because the worst thing you can do is try to do everything and be everywhere to everyone. That ultimately very quickly leads to burnout or you're just doing half-ass work across, or it'd be like quarter-ass work across multiple channels,
Yeah, totally. And I always say to people, like, pick one of the three biggies, which is YouTube, podcasts, or blogs. That's your long-form content. Then after that, you can start thinking about kind of the repurposing so never think of social. Like, I guess TikTok could be thought of as like a fourth biggie. But basically, you want to think of long form content first, and then you want to think of how you can repurpose it on social.
Oh, that's a great framework to go off of, because I feel like a lot of people do tend to just do quick little things on social media, which can be great, but if they don't, I guess, lead to anything more, that's probably where a lot of it falls flat, I would imagine, right? It's like, oh, that was nice, but thank you. I don't know. Like if there's something else to back that up, there's so much benefit to that. I think that's the beauty of long form content, whether it's a video or a podcast or an interview you did or a webinar or a workshop or a training that you're going to do, or you want to build up to, like having something that's more meaty. I mean, I guess we're getting close to lunchtime here, so I'm going to go the food route. Like you want to have an appetizer or something to tease the meal before you get the actual meal, right?
Of course, you got to get hungry first. But and I would say like the video and podcasts are definitely going to be your best bet. I know we're here to mostly talk about YouTube today. So let's just go with that for the purposes of this. So you'd want to, and what you do want to avoid is actually just doing like one or two things and kind of having that be your overall long form content. Like you mentioned, webinars are great, but you need to have consistent content week after week or month after month. You need to constantly be adding to that pile. That's kind of where it gets interesting, because if you just do one or two things, especially on YouTube, like it's probably never going to go anywhere.
That's a good point.
It's the repetition.
I know something that Pat Flynn mentioned a few episodes back, or a couple episodes back, was when you think about a subscriber, you have to think about what they are expecting next. Do you think about that, Wes, with your channel? Like when somebody subscribes, to think about, okay, what do they... Because, and again, I mentioned earlier, I kind of backed off my YouTube. I'm not stopping YouTube. A lot of the conversations I've had recently, and including this one, is like challenging me to really rethink it and take a whole new lens approach at it. But that idea of like thinking about the subscriber, thinking about what they expect and where they're at, is that something that has contributed to the growth of your channel? Yeah,
it has to, because you can talk about so many things on YouTube, right? And you could talk about, I know Pat, his example, like he talks about podcasting, and there's other channels about Pokemon cards, right? So like, had he combined those two things into one channel, that never would have worked, because the people that signed on to get podcasting advice, they're going to see a video about Pokemon cards and they're going to be like, what the hell is this guy talking about? That's not what I signed up for. Right. So you do have to think about the viewer. It's not just all about what you want to talk about today. So a little bit like to put that in the framework of my channel, I talk about a lot of different things, but they're all under one umbrella, which is service business owners getting more clients through their website. Within that, I can talk about your website itself. I can talk about getting people to your website. And in that, now we're talking Facebook ads and blogging and podcasting and all that kind of stuff. So as long as you can wrap it all in some kind of umbrella that really thinks about what it is, what do the people really want, right? No one like really wants a website. They need a website because it's going to get them something. So what else can we talk about that's going to get them that same goal?
Oh, that's so beautiful. You know? Yeah. It's funny. When I first met you, you kind of coined yourself as a website strategist, or I think a web strategist maybe. And we talked a lot about that on the podcast recently, with how important strategy is in all areas of business, just like what you just explained, but also on a website, where it's like, there's a lot of strategy behind a successful website, but no client is Googling website strategy. Like they want website to make more money or grow their business. So it is interesting. There has to be such an intentional approach, I feel like, when you have one service or one suite of products, to make sure like you can do all these different topics, but they don't go outside too far of the boundaries with what those are about. And I think that's really common with web designers in particular, with their service offerings, because they may do websites and that may include a few things, but then once you get out of the box of web design and you get into like photography or videography or things that are pretty far outside, I mean, they can contribute, they can be ancillary services, but that's where this can really muddy up the message for clients. So I think the idea, whether it's YouTube or any other main marketing channel, having the idea of like, so clear what you do, and then the few things that you can talk about to get people through the door. I love that, Wes, because it's so easy to overlook, isn't it? Like, it's so easy to get in the weeds of your business, and then you kind of forget, like, can you succinctly say what you do for somebody, just like you did a couple minutes ago? It's so important.
Yep. Got to nail that elevator pitch. You got to know who you're helping and with what, or you're not going to get very far, you know. And that's the other way to think about a YouTube channel too, is you can think about it, or any kind of niche, right? You can niche down to the person, the kind of person who needs your service. And then within that, you can start talking about other things that are important to them as well. But it's got to all come back to that person.
And how are you figuring out your topics? Do you do any data or keyword research or anything like that? Small business owners, I imagine, we've been in the industry for a while. We kind of know probably what their challenges are, but do you take a measured approach or data approach to that as well?
I do. I mean, I look at all the videos that I do, and I see like what performs the best. For a long time, it was Facebook ads related videos, which is never a service I actually provided. So I'm trying to pull back on that a little bit. I will still talk about it sometimes because it's a good attractor. The people who are interested in running Facebook ads for their business are probably also interested in getting a good website or improving their website. So I look at what's performed well. I also look at, you go in, I don't know how much your average listener is like versed on the inner workings of YouTube and the dashboard, but basically they tell you what other channels your viewers watch, specific videos that they watch, and you can see the numbers. You can see like, oh, wow, my average viewer watches Neil Patel, and this is the video they're watching from him the most. It gives you a lot of really good insights on what maybe you should be focusing on, filling in those gaps.
That's a good point. I didn't really, okay, I'm actually looking at my analytics right now. I mean, I had seen, it's kind of similar, even podcast platforms will do that. They're like other listeners or listen to these other podcasts. I actually did not look into that is in regards to my YouTube channel though. So I'm definitely going to look, now I'm kind of looking into it. This is really interesting.
Yeah. Just go to like your audience insights and it basically shows you all that good stuff.
Other channels. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's awesome. And gosh, it's so interesting. Particularly, I would love to pick your brain about the idea of kind of measuring quantity versus quality with YouTube, because I have some other YouTube colleagues who are doing like web design tutorial type sites, and their channels are like hundreds of thousands of subscribers, 30, 40, 50 million views plus, but they are generally reaching an audience that is like starting to build websites or people just Googling how to build a website. Your audience though is a little bit different, Wes. Like, yeah, you might get some of those folks, but you're also, like you mentioned, you're really targeting small business owners, which maybe you're not, maybe your channel could be way bigger if you were targeting like how to build a website type of people. But is it fair to say you're kind of really zoning in on like more quality viewers rather than just anybody and everybody for the sake of numbers?
Yeah. And I will qualify that though, because I am also going after those kind of how to build a website type things, because I have a second arm of my business that does affiliate sales for Bluehost. So I started these videos with that. So it's like, even if I get someone who's not that small business owner to watch this particular video, that's okay, because I'm more likely to get more affiliate sales through that. And YouTube is smart enough to know that that person probably isn't going to be interested in another one of my videos. So it doesn't really detract away too much. Yeah. But I do a fair amount though of talking in my videos. I make it known that like, this is for you, the small business owner, not for you, the fledgling digital marketer who's trying to work with small business owners. They can watch it too, and I'm sure a lot of them do, but I gear it toward them with examples, and I talk about it in a way that's, you know, more like, you're a small business owner. You've probably never done this before, and here's how to do it. So this is such an important like case study example of how you talk in your videos and who you talk to is going to determine your audience. It's either going to attract the right people or push away the right people. Like even the way your channel artwork sits, like as of right now, your YouTube channel artwork says next level website marketing strategies for explosive business growth. That tells me you are creating resources for business owners and you're not creating resources for somebody who's learning, like you said, website design to help their own business owners. Like, it is really intentional. So it's a great reminder to make sure, first off, I would say you have your ideal client in mind. You have your marketing and your messaging, that little pitch where you are so clear about what you do. And that's going to determine how you talk in all of your videos and all of your blog posts, all of your marketing channels. It's such a great point, man, because that can be missed. Like if you're like, hey, if you're trying to figure out how to build a website, here are some tips. That just brought in a whole different audience rather than you as a small business owner, you need your website to work for you. Here are some tips. I love that. What a great reminder. Yeah. Well, and it gets even more granular than that, really, because a lot of people who are small business owners with a website, they're doing e-commerce. They're trying to sell a product. I take it a step further and say, I'm for service business owners. If you are not selling anything on your website, but you want to use your website to bring in way more clients that you can close on the phone or over email, this is the channel for you. I'm going to show you how to do that.
Yeah. And have you found that to help with your, like the CPM cost, like the cost per clicks? Are you running AdSense? Are you making money off your videos? So have you seen that help as you attract like more serious business owners as far as those numbers?
I think so. I mean, I'm making quite a bit higher cost per what it is, like RPM.
Yeah.
Or like, whatever those numbers are, then you see being the average. Like my RPM is like around $50. So like for every 1,000 views, I get about $50, which you look at other people and like other people will like kind of brag about $20 but most like entertainment channels, it's closer to like 20 cents.
Right. Yeah.
So
mine's $47.88 right now, my CPM, which sounds like it's very comparable. But again, now your channel is way bigger than mine. I'm happy to trash my own channel because I just think it's terrible and I have so much I want to do to it. But regardless, one thing that we have in common is we've targeted like quality over quantity. And I don't mean that as a person. I just mean like we're targeting people who are in a different place right now in their business and in their journey than some of these channels who are either entertainment based or you're just trying to sell tools or just trying to, sell something like that. I mean, I know that's a part of what you do, but by far it's so clear to me that you are serious about helping small business owners.
Yeah. And I think that, thanks for saying that. And like, I think that the biggest differentiator too of making a lot of money with your ads on YouTube is if you're business centric. It's not just all about the quality of the people, but it's like, if it's about business, like you're going to attract way more advertisers who are trying to sell their stuff and they'll pay a lot more for it.
So I relabeled my podcast recently to the Web Design Business Podcast. Would you say that's probably a good move for where I'm headed? Because I'm definitely targeting business of web design.
It's great because the old show is just called the Josh Hall Web Show, or what was it called?
Web Design Show. Yeah.
Web Design. Okay. Well, you had web design in there, so that's good. But I think when we're talking about any of these things like podcasting or YouTube, by the way, I'm a terrible example because I just use my name on YouTube, but that's okay, I think, because the search engine is better in YouTube they'll find a video, but a podcast is different. This is why I had such a hard time with a podcast is the searching is just not as good. It's not as like impactful and helpful for podcasters. So to have the word web design in your title prominently is probably a good thing for you.
Well, and case study. Let me pick your brain on this while we're here, Wes. I had debated on changing my YouTube channel to the Web Design Business channel, but I stuck with my personal brand because my website is joshhall.co. What are your thoughts on that? Like, do you think it's worthwhile, particularly as I put more web design resources, like business resources, do you think it's worthwhile keeping the personal brand front and center since that is my website? Okay.
On YouTube, I do, because here's, again, what I just said is important. People are never going to be people search podcasts for a overall podcast a lot of the time. Sometimes an episode, but a lot of times they're looking for a podcast. On YouTube, no one's looking for a channel. They're looking for a video. So as long as you use keywords strategically in your video titles, I love the idea of having a personal brand. That's why I changed mine from The Deep End to Wes McDowell, because people were getting to know me to where the business name was taking a back seat. Like, people didn't know The Deep End. They just knew that this face was on the videos and they were getting to know me like they will get to know you.
Gotcha. That makes me feel so much better and totally makes sense. Yeah. I think that's a really important point for folks thinking about starting their channel as well. Like, there is power, particularly YouTube, with a personal brand as far as like where you end up. But yeah, you target the videos about a certain topic. What a great point, because when it comes to searching podcasts versus YouTube, people search YouTube for an answer to a question or generally a topic. That is going to bring up your video. And then if it's by this Wes McDowell guy or this Josh Hall guy, then like, oh, okay, he's the dude behind the channel. And then that builds that trust and authority. But the topical stuff are your playlists, the videos, and the details. I think that's such a great approach as opposed to having a business channel, which, let's face it, now more than ever, business channels are usually just like, it's lame. It's like, this is why it's funny. My business coach, James Sharamko, he just changed his brand to a personal brand. It was Super Fast Business. Now it's just James Schramko. And I looked at all of his social media posts because they would be duplicated often. His personal profile always got way more engagement than the business one did, even though the content was exactly the same. There's something about showing up, being personal, that's so powerful now. So I think it's a great reminder when you have any sort of channel, but particularly YouTube.
Yeah, totally. Like I was on YouTube last week. I don't remember what I was looking up. I was looking up kind of how to do something specific with a specific program. And I don't remember what it was. But then there were videos from that company, and I didn't want to watch those. I wanted to watch the ones from normal people because I wanted to see, like, you want to get their, like, them weighing in and their personal reactions. If it comes from a company, it feels less authentic already.
Yes. So, that's so well said. Or if somebody's working on behalf of a company, sometimes it's like, no matter what they say, the company's not going to probably, maybe they'll let them have a little leeway with an honest opinion on something, but there's going to be some level of lines that can't be crossed. Yeah. In that case. I remember what it was.
It was looking for a new microphone for my camera, and like the B&H video official one came up. And I was like, I don't want to watch that one. You're trying to sell me something versus this guy who's just going to give me an honest review.
That's a really interesting point. And that leads me to kind of Elementor featuring you recently on their ad, because I'm a Divi guy. And I think one reason when I started my YouTube channel, it blew up fairly quickly on me was because I had a lot of resources around Divi, but I was unbiased. Like, I didn't work for Elegant Themes. I blog authored for them for a while, but I was never a employee of Elegant Themes. So I gave my honest take on the tool and what I loved about it, where I think it could be improved. And I think that really resonated with people. And it's why I kind of rivaled. If you search a lot of Divi related things, a lot of my videos still come up right next to Elegant Themes, because like you just mentioned, it's a unbiased personal opinion. Same for you, Wes. I'm actually curious. And again, this conversation, it spurred from me seeing Elementor feature you, and I was like, I want to talk with Wes again. How did that go about? Like, was it similar? You use Elementor, but I imagine you were an affiliate, but you were never like hired by them. I don't know what that looks like now, but is that kind of how that started for you as well?
Yeah. So I use Elementor. I love it. You and I will always butt heads over this one, you Divi guy. But Elementor, I love Elementor. I am an affiliate for them. However, I will go on record saying their affiliate program is terrible. Like, they give you no way of, basically, I turn a lot of people onto them within my paid course as well, because I happen to believe it. I don't think I've gotten paid more than like $50 from them ever. And that's fine. Wow. Well, because they don't, this is a tangent, but like, affiliate programs to work well, they need to give some kind of incentive for people to sign up through you. And they don't really do anything like that. So it's like,
gotcha. So
I can tell
you
or anything. And it's like, I can tell you, like, use my link, but why would I use your link, Wes? When I can just go to Elementor and get it. So that's really what I'm talking about. But anyway, recently, and I do a lot of videos, just kind of the web tutorials, how to use it. And I guess they caught wind of it. They saw some of them, and they reached out to me. I assume other people who do the same kind of videos as well, to do an ad for them, basically. So it's me talking about my experience using Elementor, why I like it, and they're running that as an advertisement.
Gotcha. Well,
probably on my channel.
yeah. Then that's how I saw it. Even though I'm a Divi guy, which, side note, I have to say, Divi and Elegant Themes affiliate program is the best. Like, every time I join somebody, oh my gosh, every time I join somebody's affiliate program, I'm like, you guys should, whatever Elegant Themes does, that is the way to go, because they're on it with that. That's another great point. Like, maybe companies need to really think about their affiliate programs for this type of SaaS product or any type of online product. Anyway, that is a really interesting point too, because I'm guessing YouTube is what probably got you in the door to be featured with Elegant, or to be featured by Elementor, which of course builds your brand, builds your authority, builds your trust, because somebody might see your channel and be like, oh, that's the dude. I just saw like Elementor featured this guy, so he must be legit. That's another benefit of having a YouTube channel. And again, not everyone's going to have a huge channel, but even for service providers, or if there is a tool that you're really keen on, do some training on it, or just share what you know about it. You never know where those opportunities could lead.
Yeah, absolutely. And I never would have thought I never even thought I would turn on my monetization, to be honest with you. I thought like, I'm in this for a different reason. I'm selling my course, I'm selling my services. And then one day, like last year, I just said, let's try this. And it was like I say, it was a much higher dollar amount than I was led to believe it would be. So it's like, I kicking myself, I didn't do this like years ago.
Right.
But then I never would have thought like a brand deal would emerge. But by now, I've done that for Elementor, and then SEMrush, if you've heard of them.
Yeah.
They've contracted me to do, I've done a course for them they paid me for, and I've done a whole series of YouTube videos for them that they also paid me for. So probably have to cool it with the brand deals a little bit. My own business has suffered a little bit lately because of that. But interesting that things I never would have thought were possible.
Yeah. Now, I think when most people think about making money on YouTube, the thought is ads of some sort, or like, brand deals is kind of a level back typically for folks. But the primary goal of your YouTube channel is to get people to go through your program. Is that right, Wes? Is that still your end goal?
That is my main focus, yes. But the two other arms have kind of branched out as well. The YouTube ads is becoming quite a thing, and then my affiliate sales as well. So I really have three branches of my business at this point. The courses I do want to elevate and make sure that that's always the highest, because it's something that I actually own and control. Don't want to give too much. I don't want to give two other companies too much power over my business.
Right. And that can happen when the reality is when you start putting out resources and content and it starts gaining traction with something else, they are probably going to want a piece of that. And but that's the nature of the beast when somebody like you basically become a salesperson for Elementor, and they're like, well, Wes already knows the tool really well. He's already got an audience. He's already we don't have to hire somebody to potentially sell this if we can use Wes to do it in this side of the market. So that does become the problem you have to kind of watch out for, is you could essentially become a salesperson for like 10 different tools, and that's your full-time job. And if you don't want to do that, you have to do it very limited, I feel like. So what does your suite of services look like now? And I want to tie this back into like really choosing one program or one platform to go for. Because do you have multiple courses that are one-off at this point, or are they all under like one program?
I have one program right now, and it's called the Profitable Website Launchpad. That's it. I use it to teach those small business owners, the service business owners, everything to do with creating a website, starting with the messaging, ending with Elementor, bringing it to life. I don't have anything else at this point. That's my complete focus.
And your private coaching and consultations, are those just for the high level folks that may want to take you up on that? Or is that kind of just like a side, like extra benefit kind of thing?
It's pretty extra. Yeah. It's just like, I recently really increased my prices there.
Nice.
Simply because it didn't really get me excited to do it. Like I love talking to people. I love helping people. Don't get me wrong. But when I've got a lot on my plate, there's nothing that's like kind of gets me, I don't know, just like out of the zone. But looking at my calendar, it's like, oh, I've got to stop what I'm doing and get on a call, for a half hour today. So I just raise my prices, and now it's whoever wants to pay for it will. But got to be honest with you, I think those are going away very soon. I think I'll be removing it.
It's another example of like, you can try something out and see how it works. Like if you want to do one-on-one consulting or anything like that, like you found, I think the first time I was exposed to your website, I checked that out. And I think back then it was like $300 for an hour, if I remember right, or maybe $399. Now it's $1,000 for an hour. But again, if you get to a point where,
by the way, no one's bought that.
Okay.
People buy the half hour. Actually, one person bought it and then they canceled like 30 minutes after. Yeah.
Well, just goes to show you though, like if it's something where you don't need to do it, just freaking raise the rates. And then the person who does do it or is going to do it is probably going to be a really quality lead, or it's going to be worthwhile. But again, it's a good example of like figuring out what you want to do with your time and how you want to focus on your content creation and growing your biz. So I'm actually kind of curious, since you have went full-time, or not full-time, but you've really just devoted most of your time to YouTube, how has that helped you personally, Wes? Like, have you had more bandwidth to just make that channel better? Do you have more time for yourself? Like, what's that look like from a personal thing?
More time for myself. Not really. I wish I could say I did. I mean, the dream of this is always, it's always sold as like, make your own hours, like live on the beach for half the year. It's hard work. I will say that, especially because I'm not going easy on myself. Mm-hmm. While I am making it the bigger focus and I'm not doing client work anymore, now I'm kind of my own client at this point, and I'm a tough client to work for. Let's be honest. I'm raising the bar on my videos. I'm really I'm cutting down on the number of them. Speaking to the quality versus quantity thing from earlier, I've decided to not do weekly videos anymore. They're going bi-weekly, but with that comes the expectation that these videos need to be twice as good or better, right? They have to, each one has to earn its place. And I'm getting away from the strictly talking head style, which I think it's limiting, right? Because what I want to go for is something that's a little bit a mix of entertainment and education, to where even if the title of the video doesn't sound that interesting to you, you still want to watch it because you know that you're going to learn something good from me and you're going to have a good time with the video. That's kind of my thing now. So it's, I would say it's been more work than ever lately.
Wow. Okay. That's actually it's not what I expected. I figured it would be the opposite since you didn't have as much other things to work out. But that does make sense that if you make quality better on something and have a really intentional approach, it does become way more work. So probably thank God that you stopped doing the podcast if you felt like YouTube is absolutely, really the strong way to go. I think what's interesting too is when you think about your customers, small business owners, like how many of them are listening to web design type of podcasts or even like, I guess I don't know. I think the reason I say that, because I think the reason the podcast for me has been such a big channel for the growth of my business is because there are so many web designers and web design business owners that do listen to podcasts because we're all online entrepreneurs, service-based people. I think they probably listen to podcasts, but I don't know how many business podcasts they listen to. Have you seen that as well? Do you ever think about that? Yeah. I mean, I think there are a fair number of like marketing type podcasts. And I think that's more what I was branding it towards. It really was, I never used the term web design. It was much more about, it was always profitable website was the title, right? Profitable website.
So like emphasis on profitable, like it was trying to like convey that, you can use your website to make more money for your business. And I'll show you how. So it was never about like the design of it, because I knew early on I couldn't really talk to small business owners using words like design. And some people would be interested, but they'd be interested for 2 weeks and then they'd move on to the next thing.
Or even conversion. If you say conversion to a small business owner that, has a barber shop or something, they're like, what is that word? Right.
Eyes glaze over.
Yeah. That's interesting, man. Well, so what looking forward for your channel, it sounds like you're going quality over quantity, less content, but better content. What else I feel like I'm catching you at an interesting time, because I feel like maybe the honeymoon phase of going all in on YouTube is maybe worn off a little bit. What's like the next chapter look like in your approach to YouTube?
Yeah. So I've got a team and we're really refining our process right now. I think that is where a lot of the extra work is coming in, because we've gotten so behind. I'll be honest with you. Like I had a move. We both had moves at the same time,
right?
Where I couldn't get any real work done. There was too much construction going on all over the place. And like, I can't make a video in that kind of environment. So we got way off track. Now we're really playing catch up. And I think that's where a lot of my overwhelm comes from. So right now we're refining processes. I think we're going to hire on a junior video editor who basically will act as an assistant to my editor so that he has more time to put the polish on. Gotcha. And then the junior editor will just kind of like do the first rough assembly of all the cuts and then pass it along. And so, I mean, that's the next phase is really refining that process, getting it to a point where maybe we can talk about bringing weekly videos back. And the other thing that's kind of interesting is I'm starting a new, and we talked about this last time we spoke, Josh, about bringing on a bit of an interview format, but not in a traditional way that you normally think about it. I will feature expert interviews here and there, but it's not going to be like a long form like what we're doing now. Like I'll start it that way, then I'll cut it into little quick segments that will fit into more of a story that I'm trying to tell with the video.
Gotcha.
Hard to talk about. You'd have to see it in action.
I'm very curious. Yeah.
Yeah. We're working on some of those right now. And I think it's going to be a good way for me to bring expertise that I don't have to my audience in a way that's authentic without me trying to act like I know all about it.
Yeah.
We're bringing it through another person who's gotten a real result, rather than me just lying about it and saying I got a result that I didn't get.
I mean, that's what's so beneficial about the podcast end of things for me is to have those long discussions about like one of my students, Steve, has a subscription web design model. I didn't do that. So I don't know exactly how that works. So having him on and then being able to share with my audience, that's key. Like that is the benefit of being able to pick the brain of other folks. I know I just did an interview yesterday for Kathleen Gratzer, Colleen Gratzer, excuse me, who is a accessibility person by nature, but she's trying to like help a lot of her audience with like conversion tips, and I'm getting more known as far as like website conversions. So I was able to share what I've learned and what my students have employed, and she's able to share that with her audience. And that way you kind of host it. It's under your brand, that knowledge, but it's taken by somebody. It's really dished out by somebody else, which is great. I love that. And gosh, this, Wes, like you'll learn so much from that. And you'll be able to apply it and learn. It's a win-win. It's a win-win all around. Yeah,
you'll learn a lot, and you'll meet a lot of cool people that you can network with. And I've got Jasmine Starr coming on in a few months. I don't know if you know of her, but she's kind of a big.
Does she have? Is her podcast the Jasmine Starr Show or something like that?
Probably.
It's so funny that you mentioned her name, because when I thought about having a personal branded podcast, Jasmine Starr, for some reason that came to mind. And I think it's because I follow Amy Porterfield and she mentioned it or something recently. But yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I think it's either way. If somebody's watching this or listening to this and they're interested, but they're like, at this point, where do I get started, or what do I do with maybe an existing channel? I think an interview type thing is definitely worthwhile. I mean, there's complexities to it with lighting and where you're going to be and all that stuff. I would just say do it through Zoom and keep it simple to start, particularly if you want. It's more about giving your guests an audience to share it with their audience and their business owners, which really can build that trust. Yeah. I'm kind of curious though, Wes, for the average, like in my case, web designer, web design business owner who is thinking about putting resources on YouTube for both SEO, authority building, they're not going to be the next Josh Hall or Wes McDowell with a huge influencer channel. I mean, maybe they will, but those will be outliers. But they just want to use it as a different channel. Where would you say they practically start with like what type of videos to create? Because you mentioned talking head is different. And I actually find the like business type talks way more work than just doing a tutorial where I'm like, okay, here's how to do this in Divi, or here's what I like about this in Divi. Those seem to be way harder. The talking head, there's just more to it rather than just recording a screen.
Well, I mean, it can also be less too. Like I actually find my tutorial videos to be the biggest pains to do.
Oh, really? It's so funny. We're so opposite on a lot of stuff, but that just shows you like very different people can use one tool and it'd be a very different experience.
Yeah. Well, because it's easy for me to write out a script. I don't know but like I write scripts and I have a teleprompter because I used to try to riff and it would just be too much stopping and starting. So I just have it lined up in there. And to me, it's the easiest thing in the world is just to like talk to the camera and then put it out there. And then all you really need to do is add a little bit of B-roll, like get a Storyblock subscription or shoot your own. Does not have to be fancy. That's not what people are there for. And I would actually say the first place to start would be to think of how you can answer questions you get all the time. That's like the easiest place to start to get your feet wet. Those are not the videos that are going to make you a household name necessarily, but it's good for getting the reps in. You need to do that. I can't stress that enough. Back to quality versus quantity. I think you start with quantity. May not be a popular answer, but you start by just doing it a bunch of times with the freedom of knowing that no one's watching you yet. You know what I mean? Like, no one's going to be seeing it. Like, people hardly ever go back to my first videos, and thank God they don't, because those videos are terrible. And you can always delete those later.
They will now.
You can delete them later.
We're going to link those in the show notes for sure. That's great advice, though, Wes. It's very counterintuitive to what I would have expected, because most people say, like, be really prepared. And I'm sure the natural instinct is to, like, feel really good on camera, make it perfect, and then launch. Of course, we all know you chase perfection, you'll never get it done. You'll never build anything. You're just going to waste a bunch of time. I love that counterintuitive approach of just quantity over quality, which is actually opposite of the whole conversation we've had primarily.
Well, I mean, eventually,
it's a great idea, though.
You'll flip it eventually. You know what I mean? But you need to, people are always, you mentioned being comfortable on camera. Well, how do we get comfortable on camera? By going on camera a lot.
Every day, all the time. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's how the only way to do it. So rather than thinking about this has to be perfect, just write down all your FAQs you get from your clients. And this is such hacky advice. Everyone gives this advice, but do it anyway. And then make every one of those FAQs into a video. And just keep trying to get better and better, and watch a lot of YouTube, see what works, what draws you in. And the other thing we need to talk about, we haven't touched on yet, it's probably the most important thing, titles and thumbnails. If you don't get people to click on your video, it doesn't even exist, really, right?
Great point. Yeah, because you can share it, and then maybe 8 people will watch it. But if you don't, like, the key and the beauty about YouTube is that it is a sales force for you that will show your video if it's bringing people in and people are staying on the video and watching. Like, average watch time is a currency that is very underrated if people stay on a video instead of bouncing off it real quick. So I couldn't agree more. What about resources for that? Like, titles, I imagine, and this is just the approach that I took. I did zero keyword research or any data when I started my channel. I just titled videos of, like, what I would search. If I search, like, how to do this in Divi, that's what I searched, and that's what worked. So I think basically, like, answering a question in the title is a great way to go. Any other tips maybe for titles, and then we can go to thumbnails?
Yeah. So for titles, you mentioned keywords. Keywords are important, but here's what I would do. I would start with your videos, like, really going for those keyword phrases that you would want to research. Get a tool like vidIQ or Morning Fame if you want to get really serious about it, or just go in and see, like, what all the other popular videos in that topic are titling themselves, and go for something like that. But eventually you want to break away from being over reliant on keywords. If you'll notice, most of my videos now, I really don't even title it anything to do with what it's about. I use curiosity instead. Because at a certain point, you're going to find that you're capped by the number of searches for a topic. But if I say something like, the number one digital marketing hack that you can't afford to ignore this year, but I'm really just talking about, like, Spotify ads or something. If I just title, like, how to use Spotify ads, A, people aren't probably searching for it. B, if they're not interested in Spotify ads, they're going to be like, I'm not going to watch that video.
Gotcha. So it's a way to introduce a tool or a framework or a strategy that maybe they wouldn't have searched for. Right.
And it's curiosity building. You asked for a resource. Here it is. It's called, I don't remember how I got to it, but just do a Google search for, it's called Creator Hooks. It's basically, you get on this guy's email list, and every Monday he sends an email with, like, 5 new title formulas, basically. And he shows you, like, a numerical score of how this title format, like, how much it improved on this YouTube creator's normal view count.
Interesting.
Right. So, like, this title did 10 times better than his average YouTube video.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is creatorhooks.com. We'll link that as well.
Great.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, so title's super engaging. Now, I've heard a couple episodes ago, Pat talked about this. As a YouTube guy, I did this a little later on in my YouTube journey. I wish I would have taken it more seriously. And that is the thumbnail and how important thumbnails are for clicks. What's your approach on thumbnails, Wes? Do you have like a framework where it's like a few words, a picture of you, and some sort of background or color, or what? Because I love your thumbnails. I've always looked at those as inspiration and been jealous. So how do you approach thumbnails?
Yeah, so I've gone through a lot of different kind of iterations of them over the years, but I think the ones I've landed on now are pretty solid. I think they're eye-catching color-wise. What I like to do is I do like to use a facial expression of a reaction. I know that sounds very like kind of Mr. Beast or kind of like hacky in a way, but it does work. If you say like, you won't believe this, and I haven't gone so far as to do like the Home Alone face, like hands on cheeks kind of thing. Yeah. But then the other thing is you definitely don't want to just reiterate the title in the thumbnail words. You want to come up with some little, like an alternate hook or something that goes with it rather than just what it is. Like, do you mind if I pull up?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. I don't know if you want to edit this part out, but
no, you're good. It's just while you're pulling that up, it makes me think of when I started my YouTube channel. Shocker, didn't go through a course or any training. I just went for it. So I'm making all the mistakes we've talked about, but I literally duplicated the title in the thumbnail. And sometimes the title was so long that the words were teeny in the thumbnail. So it would be like, how to do this in Divi and this and this and this and this. Terrible thumbnail. And it was the same picture of me over and over, which, by the way, I do still have on my YouTube channel as well. So I think it's great that both of us have put we kept our early videos on there because they serve as lessons learned. However, I will say you can always replace thumbnails. And I've started doing that.
And titles.
Yeah. One of my videos is about manually migrating WordPress. It's actually my top video now. And I replaced the thumbnail with something that's way more engaging, way more fun. And I did see a big jump in my analytics. I could look at it now, but it's literally like a big jump from when I changed the thumbnail.
Yeah, no, I mean, thumbnails and titles are huge. I mean, it makes a big difference. But so I haven't pulled it up here. So my latest video, the title is, he found a way to get 90 new clients with 0 paid ads. And then the thumbnail says, anyone can duplicate this. And I'm like looking at my computer, like amazed. Yep. Then another one is, make these website tweaks and never lose a client again. And I've got like a before and after of 2 computers, where the first one says 6 clients gained and the next one says 54 clients gained. So you're not just reiterating, you're not repeating, because it's a waste of real estate if you do it that way.
That's a beautiful approach. And the before and after thing, gosh, I mean, what better setup for a thumbnail than to have any sort of before and after? I know I think I just talked about this, but when I was looking at figuring my new office out, I was thinking about lighting and stuff. And I found a video that said, go from this to this with home office lighting. And that got me. That got my click, and the video was so great. I've subscribed. I think it was Ben Johnson maybe, but we'll link that video. But man, genius.
Yeah. And if you do like a before and after of a website, what works really well is like the new website is like either pixeled out or blurred out or something. So it creates that curiosity again. Because if you just show the new website and people don't like what it looks like, they're just like, next.
Yeah, so true. Yeah. Because I guess if you run the risk, like you'd probably want to have a streamlined look, I would imagine. But if every tutorial video looks the same or video starts looking the same as far as the thumbnail, I imagine you do run the risk of like, oh, it's kind of the same thing over and over. Yeah.
And honestly, like making your video thumbnails like super branded and streamlined from one to the next, it's not the most important thing. Like it's important in the sense that you want to make sure people get it when it's another video from you, right? You want them to know, like, that's why I have my face in every video. It's not because I love my face. It's because I just want people to know that it's my video. So anyone who watches all of them will watch this one too, hopefully.
Yes. And I just looked it up. That lighting tutorial that I looked at was Ben Johnson. Great follow. Nice. Great point though. And I'm actually kind of curious, the videos, like if somebody wants to put themselves on a thumbnail, I know that not everyone loves that, but one approach that I thought about as well is I remembered if somebody shares this they may not know who I am. So this is a great way to say like, okay, this is what this guy who I'm about to hear from, particularly if I'm not on camera, if it's just my screen, then this is at least who he is and what he looks like. And regardless of what you think, first impressions matter. So, and there's something about building trust by seeing who you're about to hear from. So I definitely recommend that.
Totally. And to go by your last point of just showing a tutorial without your face, I highly recommend not going that route. I highly recommend adding at least a few seconds in the very beginning where you are on camera. I don't know, there's something about when I look at these tutorials where it's just someone's screen right away, it just feels disconnected. And it doesn't, like, I have no trust building with this person at that point.
That's a great point. Yeah, I've learned. So all my early videos were just the screen, but I did learn to just add like a little 10-second, like, hey, I'm Josh, web design coach. This is what I'm going to show you how to do in this tutorial. Let's go. Even that little thing adds so much. Or a lot of people now, how do you feel about having the little like video of you in the corner, like Loom style? A lot of people do that, but I actually find that slightly distracting in some cases. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that could be really great for a tutorial because they have done, like, it depends on what people want when they come there. If seeing your face without seeing the screen is going to cause them to abandon it based on now they think it's not a tutorial, that might be a good way to go, where you're in the corner so they can see a tutorial is right around the corner, but they're still seeing your face and you're getting the benefit of that, recognition basically. And then you can turn that off, right? That could possibly be there for that little intro and then it goes away.
Yeah, good point. I remember a couple of times having myself in the lower right-hand corner and then having to like go down there with my mouse and being like, oh shoot, I completely blocked what I was doing. I need to adjust that. Yeah, that's cool. I'm kind of curious from the thumbnail perspective, the images of you, do you just take them around your house? Did you go to a studio and get like 300 photos done in different poses? Or do you just take them, with decent lighting in your house with your phone and cut it out in Canva? Like what's the strategy behind that? Yeah.
So I've gotten really good at doing my own video and my own B-roll and taking my own photos. So basically it's my iPhone. I put it on a tripod and I had a little remote that can that can take the pictures with it. So I just did a ton of photos and just a bunch of different reactions, looking happy, looking concerned, looking at my phone, looking at a computer, all the different permutations of that. And then I would hire someone on Fiverr to remove all the backgrounds. And I actually have, it's hard to tell on those, but I have a filter that I run in all of them that I think makes them look a little more interesting.
Okay.
So I use a filter. And then this is what I started doing lately, which it's hard to really tell. It's not obvious, but I think it makes a difference. Within Photoshop, there's a feature of like liquefy, and I make my eyes bigger.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Like not to where I look like a manga character all of a sudden, but you can really overdo it.
Yeah.
But when it's like a 3/4 shot, it just makes the eyes bigger and more expressive. And I don't think you can really like tell that that's going on. But
now I see it though. Now I'm looking at your thumbnails. Now every time I see one of your videos, I'm going to know that little trick. Yeah. That is genius though. Like it doesn't look weird. It doesn't look like Martian McDowell. Like it like I see it now, like as I'm looking at you during this call and I'm looking at your YouTube channel, I see ever so slightly bigger eyes, but it does translate when you see smaller thumbnails. So that makes total sense. What a cool trick. What a cool little hack.
Yeah. And you can also make your smile, like your mouth bigger, like just make it, it depends on who your audience is. You can go overboard with it, but maybe that's the point. Maybe you're going for a cartoony look and whatever gets the click, That's
fascinating, man. So interesting. Well, man, we've covered a lot. We've covered a lot of YouTube tips in particular. With my audience, again, I want to hone in on this because I think it's a very untapped channel for most web designers and web design business owners, particularly in the case of, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, having a catalog of videos that you can use, even if they're not getting found on YouTube as much, but as like a resource for clients. We can get ready to wrap this up, but what are your thoughts on that of just having like a dozen or 2 dozen or 3 dozen videos that are your resource of educational stuff for clients that's public? Like, what are your thoughts on that and the benefits of that?
I love that. And that's how I got started on YouTube, was doing it that way. Because basically there were certain processes that people would always ask questions about, and I'd rather just direct them to that, like buying web hosting, right? Because I'd always have them do that. And it's like, I didn't want to have to tell them what to do each time. I made a video about it. Trying to think of other examples, but no, it's a great way to get your feet wet, because you're doing it with the expectation that you're talking to someone that you know, which is kind of how you should be approaching it anyway, right? You should be always like, when you're talking to the camera, you should be pretending like that's someone you know, like it's your best friend or something. It's how you're going to come across best. So.
I love that. It's great advice. And I was even just thinking, the advice that you said a little bit ago, I know you said it's kind of like a elementary idea, or that we all know about, just taking your FAQs and making those videos. But if you're not a content creator yet, that is something that you may not have thought of. And you're probably like, okay, now I need to do keyword research and think about this and try this. Yeah. No, just take the common questions and make videos to them. And guess what? If there's like 100 other answers out there, make your own version of it, because you will stand out being uniquely you. And another big time benefit I've found of making videos is you learn more about that topic. So if clients are asking you as a web design business owner that they're wanting to get better Google rankings or something, and you've got your own tips for SEO, make that like a 5-tip video on YouTube. You can share it with your clients every time that they ask about it. People on YouTube will start to find it. And then where does that lead? To your service or to a productized, whatever you do. So I think you're totally right, Wes. Like, there's no harm in it, is there? Like, it's just nothing but benefits and win-wins.
Yeah. And we're reaching a point, Josh, where video is I would say it's no longer a nice to have. I would say we're approaching the territory of video being essential for any business that wants to make it. Sounds harsh. Some people just say they don't feel comfortable on camera. And I want to challenge those people, because to leave that alone and say, okay, you do you're putting yourself at a serious disadvantage. So I really think, podcasts aside, like, you're covered because you've got a podcast, right? I think that's a good secondary option. But I think if anyone who doesn't have a podcast or a YouTube channel, I think YouTube is going to be their best bet to really go all in on and future-proof your business. Because if you don't do it, you're really putting yourself at a disadvantage.
Future-proof your business. I love that. And I totally agree. Whether you like it or not, video is king right now. Content has been king for a long time, but I think the new version of that is video. And I think it's probably because of how we're wired with social media, and we're just used to seeing people. I also think the whole challenging people to get comfortable on camera, I totally agree. It's like, if you have to meet with somebody to sell with them or take a call, you're going to be communicating with them. You might as well just learn how to do it to a camera. And I know it's easier said than done, but it goes back to what you said earlier. Just do it over and over and over and over and over again, and you will start to get better. You will get more comfortable.
There's a lot of things that we do that we don't enjoy, or that we don't think we enjoy, but we have to learn them as part of doing business. And people will always give those people a pass by saying, oh, I'm not comfortable on camera. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, you're fine. No, I'm going to say that's another one of those things you need to do that maybe you don't want to do, but I think you'll find, like, after you do it for a bit, it gets easier, and you probably will actually enjoy it. You'll definitely enjoy the benefits of getting on a call with a client, and suddenly they're saying, I can't believe I'm talking to you, as opposed to 6 months ago when you weren't on YouTube and you're like, their arms are crossed, like, why should I work with you? Dance
Great
for
point.
me.
And it goes back to what you said earlier. I forget how you worded it, but it kind of already not generates a sale, but it already builds that, like, that getting to know you factor, right? I forget exactly how you said it earlier, but it really does so much to, like, prime somebody to buy from you.
Yes. And like I said, like, honestly, it went from me having to sell my ass off on the phone to people, and to people just being like, oh, I'm talking to you. I can't believe it. And then the selling was already done. They already wanted to work with me. This is just more to see, like, logistics, like how it works. So
Oh, I love
That's
that.
the power of YouTube.
I love that. It's true. It's so true. It's, gosh, I think about, because I didn't really think about my YouTube videos selling me for services, but I got a lot of clients from my Divi tutorials. I had no idea that was going to happen, but you just said it. When they came through, it wasn't like, why should I work with you? It was, how much is this going to be? Yeah. And that is a beautiful place to be. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a fun note to end this
especially
conversation.
If you hate selling. Yeah. If you hate selling, YouTube's for you.
Yes. You hate selling, share what you know and put yourself out there. And you'll find that's the best sales tool there, especially nowadays. It's crucial. So Wes, man, I always love chatting with you. You're such a gold mine of fun talk and thoughts and experience. And you always seem to have some counterintuitive approach every time I talk to you. So I really appreciate that. I particularly love the idea of going quantity first, just getting all the bad out there. And it's not even bad. It's just not great yet, but you'll get better and you'll hone in on how you like to do things and what you're good at. And next thing you know, you don't have to sell anymore. Whoop, whoop. That's what we want. This is we'll have to retitle this one, stop selling and start creating videos or something. Ooh, I like that. Might make that the title. Anyway, Wes, thanks for your time, man. I'm super excited about what you're up to right now. And then for the next round, I'm excited to see the next evolution of what you do, because you're always evolving in a cool way with your business. So I love seeing it. Thanks. Well, I'll definitely give you a front row seat each time. I'll keep coming back and tell you what I learned. There it is. Beautiful. Yeah. Wes, thanks again, man. Thanks, Josh. Hey friends, it's Josh here. I just wanted to mention a couple quick things before you head out. First off, if you've been enjoying the show, please consider leaving a podcast review. I personally read all the podcast reviews. I love hearing your thoughts and feedback on the show, and it also really helps grow this podcast. You can do that easily if you go to joshhall.co/podcast review, and you can leave a review wherever you listen to the show. And then I also wanted to make sure you know that for all the extras on every one of these podcast episodes, you can go to joshhall.co/podcast. We have a post there for every episode, which includes full transcriptions, timestamps, and all the links and resources that we mentioned. So just go to joshhall.co/podcast for all the extra goodies. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next episode.